So, und damit wären wir auch schon vor dem letzten Vortrag vor der Nachmittagspause. Ein kurzer Hinweis, der folgende Vortrag wird in Englisch vorgehalten. Wenn Sie sich schwer tun sollten, alles zu verstehen, die Aufzeichnung der Vorträge wird auch später auf YouTube hochgeladen und dort gibt es die Möglichkeit, dass Sie die Untertitel automatisch generieren und übersetzen. Das funktioniert mittlerweile sehr, sehr gut, aber ich denke, dass die meisten von Ihnen das hier nachvollziehen werden können und genau. Okay, so I'm going to switch to English now. Next up is our next speaker, Rahul Shah from the BSI group.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. We saw some wonderful presentations and case studies of such advanced digital technologies today so far, and of course yesterday as well. And I would just like to pause for a moment here, all of us, and ask that question: why? Why do we need digitalization in our sector, built environment? And to answer to me, I think the most, three pressing needs that we have as a sector are these. First is, as you might know, the population is growing, and by 2050, we might have around 10 billion, population around the world, right? And what that means is that the built assets will double, the infrastructure will double minimum, in capacity. And we all know that the climate crisis is real, and it's a global emergency for all of us. And the impact of built environment, as we look forward into, 2050 and the number, people as well as, the assets, I think it's massive. The impact of the sector, the built environment is massive, as you can see on the screen. The demand that the sector has on natural resources, the energy, as well as, the carbon emissions just from energy, these numbers are staggering, really staggering. And therefore, I think the sector, we all in the sector have a massive opportunity to tackle the world's most pressing issue, head on, that is climate crisis. Right, and digitalization has a key role to play. And when it comes to digitalization, most of you would know that BIM, building information modeling, has been a key sort of enabler in terms of not only designing, delivering, but also operating assets. And we saw some wonderful presentations today, BIM to FM and during design, and the last one about the cost planning and so forth. When we talk about digitalization in our sector, we must look at, some of the granular challenges that we are facing. Of course, at a global scale, we have those top three challenges in terms of rapid urbanizations, in terms of improving cost and productivity in our sector, as well as, the climate crisis. When we look at the productivity in our sector, the numbers are shocking. And I'm sure most of you would know about this challenge that we are facing, and hence digitalization, the importance of digitalization in our sector. If we look at this, number on the left hand side, almost around 35% of the time people on construction sites spend either looking for data, or spending some time resolving conflicts, or dealing with mistakes or rework. And that's quite shocking, compared to, the profit margins that we have in the industry, as well as, most importantly, the impact that we have on the climate and overall, sustainability footprint. And we must change. We must change the way we do business, the way we execute projects, the way we design projects, not only to improve our own business bottom line, but also to actually improve the sustainability footprint of the sector. If we just look a little bit further in terms of the reasons, some of the reasons why we have this productivity challenge in our sector, and again, from the industry stats, we can see that the topmost sort of contributor to that productivity challenge is the poor communication. We as a sector, we are quite fragmented. Not saying that the other sectors are not fragmented, but we are quite fragmented, and the communication is very poor. And in that, having poor communication causes a lot of issues during design coordination, during site, coordinations, as well as down the line during operations. So poor communication is the topmost reasons. Then the next one we can see is the lack of responsiveness of data or information. So not having the right information, right time, delays in information and so forth. The next one is the accuracy, the confidence in the accuracy of information. Is it the right sort of information that I can execute in terms of either procurement or design approvals or site execution, or perhaps down the line during facilities management, that confidence in accuracy. And there are some other information, reasons too. So the good news is that, and most of you might have heard, the good news is that we have an international best practice in the form of ISO 19650 framework that actually enables businesses to structure information or organize information in a better way, as well as supports in digitalization information. Collectively call it information management. So if you haven't looked at that standard, I highly recommend that have a look at it. It's really, really great framework, international best practice in terms of how do you go about procuring information, sort of producing information, managing information, and so forth, and sharing information. And we all heard a lot during this conference about common data environment, or CDE, right? Common data environment has a crucial role to play in terms of enabling better information management. And if I look further into the standard and look at this diagram into the standard, you can see that how information management sits within the overall project management and at a high level overall organizational management, and therefore contributing to not only the business resilience, but also resilience in our industry and contributing towards the sustainability goals. So how can then BIM and ISO 19650 help us in tackling some of the most pressing challenges we are facing in terms of the productivity, in terms of the better quality of buildings, but the rapid urbanizations and improving the time as well that it takes to design construction, as well as the whole manufacturing process. And I've just picked out some of the sort of ways how BIM and ISO 19650 can support you and your business in terms of not only improved productivity. We heard a lot from many speakers today, experts today, about improving productivity, softwares, plugins, but it's also about ultimately producing better quality assets, get it right first time. It's also about reducing rework and waste, throughout the process. Can we design out waste instead of just focusing on waste management? In the first instance, I think we should focus on designing out waste, reducing waste on site, and therefore look at things like, design for manufacturing, offsite manufacturing, things like that. All of this ultimately is supporting us in terms of improving sustainability and circularity in our sector, which is what we need. We need to respond to that global, sort of climate crisis together, right? And when you come at, looking at BIM implementation in your business, yes, you need to look at the technology, but you also need to, at a higher level, look at the whys and the hows and, all these factors. We heard a lot about technology in, conference today so far. I highly recommend that you also look at, other factors such as, processes. What are the processes you need to implement to get a better, success with BIM implementation and overall digitalization. Look at the training and people skills required to actually implement BIM in your business and throughout the project life cycle, as well as the value of data. What sort of data you as an architect or you as a main contractor are capturing, and what's the value of the data, and how can you share the data through common data environment and so forth. Also look at some external drivers as well as your internal drivers, in terms of BIM implementation. What is it that you want to achieve by implementing BIM? I think first and foremost, it should be improving sustainability without, any debate. But then overall, is it your government drive? Is it your client mandate? Is it the industry trend? This is where the industry is heading toward. It definitely is. We can see that there is a lot of investment in digital technologies, as you saw from the experts so far. So there are, BIM is here to stay, and you can also look at your internal sort of drivers too. And last but not the least, in terms of implementation, just have a look at these three important elements as well. You need people to drive processes, the technologies and so forth, but you also need technology. When there is a lot, we discussed today, and you'll be hearing, as we go forward through the conference about the BIM technology, some exciting, wonderful new technologies, existing technology with some, great features. But what you need in the middle is also processes. Don't underestimate, the value of having the right processes to connect people and technology to deliver better outcomes for your business. So consider people, process, and technology, and this is where ISO 19650 can support you and your supply chain. And last but not the least, as BSI, British Standards Institution, we support clients in their overall BIM journey, right from the standards and the international best practice, all the way through to training in standards and workflows and processes, all the way through to certifying your BIM maturity as well, not just for the sake of certification, but giving you that independent sort of benchmark in terms of your maturity and in your journey as well. So if you want to find out a bit more, we have our booth towards, in virtual booth, and our colleague Philip and Anna would be delighted, and myself would be delighted to help you. But before I leave, a final thought about BIM and ISO 19650. If I can summarize everything in 3 words, they are: BIM and ISO 19650 is about improving collaboration in our industry, improving communication in our industry, and most importantly, consistency of data and delivery. And collectively, it's about improving that sustainability and circularity in our industry. So with that, please do feel free to come to our booth if you want more detailed information on ISO 19650 or how we can support. And in the meantime, if you have any queries or questions, Alexander, I'm happy to answer any couple of quick questions here as well. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Rahul, for the great presentation. I especially think, like you said, the aspect of sustainability is extremely important when talking about BIM in general, because if I remember correctly, yesterday we had the Green BIM Awards in Berlin, but today, I mean, yeah, sustainability is one aspect of BIM, which is extremely important, long-term thinking, of course, but most of the time when speaking about BIM, the vision needs to arrive in people's heads that this is not just another tool to help you optimizing costs, etc., but also sustainability, because it gives you data. It gives you a foundation, and then you can say, okay, well, I can decrease this and that, and thus reduce carbon emissions and so forth. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. BIM can support us in reducing embodied carbon by designing, right from day one of design, because everything starts with design, the building performance, the maintainability of the buildings or assets, as well as, the sustainability. Or also, I think designers should start with circularity in mind as well, design with circular economy in mind. And this is where BIM can also support in terms of various analyses, thermal performance, circularity, analysis as well. So absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you. Great presentation. As Rahul said, bitte BSI gerne am Stand besuchen und sonst über das Networking-Tool kontaktieren. Die Repräsentanten sprechen dort auch Deutsch. So I basically just said, please contact BSI via the booth or via the networking tool. Your colleagues are capable of speaking German as well. And yeah, for any questions or concerns, please contact them directly there. Thank you so much, Rahul.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.